And there are a lot of books within books in those stories. So that was part of it. And then secondarily, I just like it. There's something magical about a book that's so good that it can't ever be written. You know, it reminded me of the way that books are in my head when I come up with them before I write them down and they start to suck. I assume that's your experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it goes.
You know, the Magician Kings of life in the mind of a reader. And so one of the great things about a book within a book is that it can still be perfect. You know, and nothing never gets ruined by becoming real.
Yeah.
And I like that idea. But as far as like the plot and the structure of an Imperial Affliction and stuff like that, almost all of that comes from David Foster Wallace's novel Infinite Jest, which I was in love with when I was Hazel's age, and was very, very important to me. And I thought of almost as scripture the way that that Hazel does about an Imperial Affliction. And there are a lot of the few moments from an Imperial Affliction that you do see are all sort of homages to that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't made that connection. It's hard, isn't it, just to sort of loop back. It's hard to let go, isn't it, when you to admit that it will never be the book that you had imagined that it might one day be. How do you let go? How do you know it's time?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't know how it is for you, but for me, the deadlines just encroach and encroach and encroach, and then they take it away from you. You know, I mean, so, you know, I send it to Julie, and then we have a year or two of working on it together, and then she starts to send it to other people, and then it just gets closer and closer and closer. And then the last few weeks, I'm just like a desperate, crazy person, and proposing all kinds of changes. I remember my first novel, like a week before it went to press, saying, I think this should be about the civil rights movement. Julie saying, I don't agree.
Well, honestly, I shed all manner of unmanly tears over this book. So if it had been any better, I don't even know what would happen. Just all kinds of bodily fluids. Do you find it difficult to write as a girl?
Not really. No.
Speaking of unmanliness.
Yeah, I mean, well, I didn't find it difficult to write from I felt like Hazel's perspective was very specific.
Yeah.
And I think I would have found it difficult to write from the perspective of like a capital G girl. I didn't do it. I mean, I felt...
What's a capital G?
You know, like, I don't know, like one who likes shoes and thinks a lot about her bras or whatever. But I don't, you know, which maybe none do. I have such limited understanding. And I was really, you know, in the same way, this is true though whenever you're writing a novel, I think. Like, you never know if the voice sounds plausible. I'm not a 16-year-old boy either, so like, you never know if the voice sounds plausible in the ear of the reader until the book comes out. But no, I never worried about it. Like, I couldn't dress her. My wife had to dress her.
Now, not giving anything away, life is pretty hard for Hazel.
Yeah.
And for Augustus. Were there moments when you attempted to go easier on them, to help them, to reach down in your godlike capacity as author and say, I'm going to help you out, you know, with this?
Oh, I mean, God, I could ask you the same question. You're crueler than I am. No. Well, I did, to be honest, because, but I wasn't just tempted. I did it. The original way that I imagined the book was much harder on them than the book I ended up writing, believe it or not. So, I felt it was important to. Well, I am a hopeful person, and I believe that true stories are always hopeful. And I felt it was important to make it a hopeful novel. But I wanted to create, both for the characters and for the reader, the reality that hope is not easily or cheaply won.
Yeah. I mean, I can say, I love the characters so much, I wouldn't have been able to tell the story about them that you did. And that there's just so much, I don't know, just discipline in the fact that you told it the way that horribly enough probably would have happened, and in fact happens all the time.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think I felt, I mean, some of that was feeling loyalty to the people I'd known and cared about who died, rather than feeling loyalty to you guys.
There's a great story about champagne in this book.
Yeah.
Is that true? How do you know stuff like that? How do you know stuff? So we'll tell the Dom Perignon story.
Well, it's...
Do you get sent cases of Dom Perignon every time you mention Dom Perignon?
No, man.
You do. I will start mentioning it.
Yeah, no, I'm very, very happy, though, if they're interested in a product placement deal. I've never read a novel without Dom Perignon. The story is that when Dom Perignon was a monk, hence the Dom, and he invented champagne. He discovered it, and after the first taste of his sparkling wine, he ran to the abbey. They weren't silent monks, and said, "Come quickly, I am tasting the stars." I don't know if that's a true story, but it's certainly one that the Dom Perignon company tells. I knew that because I worked at this magazine, Menopause, for about a year. I'm still a big fan of their work. They do great stuff, and I wrote 4 books for them in 6 months, all trivia books. And I learned an astonishing amount of trivia in those 6 months because I was working 14 hours a day in a tiny little room with no windows in New York City, doing nothing but finding trivia and then trying to tell one joke about it and then moving on.
That sounds awful.
It was really hard work. I'm still friends with those guys, but yes, I resent what they did to me.
One of the things I love about it is this wonderful way it brings back this motif of stars. It just seems to all circle back. It's just such a good book. Tell me, so you've been on tour, just putting it out there and talking to readers. What kind of responses have you gotten from that readers about the book?
Largely positive. It means a lot to me when the book resonates with people who've experienced illness or loss in their own lives, and that was something that I didn't expect. I felt like it might resonate better with people who didn't know what I was talking about, because people who did know what I was talking about might feel like it was inauthentic or something. So that's what's been the most.
Yeah. Do you send it out to beta readers before it's published? Do you have a lot of people look at it? Or?
I mean, my editor is one of my best friends, and she reads my books like 2,000 words at a time. So I send her almost every day. I send her what I wrote that day. It's really annoying. She doesn't like it. She puts up with me. We've been friends for a long time. And my wife reads everything that I write. There's a couple of them, but not very many. I have so much trust in those 2 voices, my wife and Julie, that I don't trust anyone else as much.
My first drafts are so crap, I would never show them to anybody. You're not one of these annoying people who just writes perfect things and never...
No, they're terrible. They're terrible. They're really bad.
Say more about how bad they are.
You should read all the crap about tuberculosis in the first draft. Hundreds of pages of clearly John Green telling you how much he knows about tuberculosis. Through the mouth of this 16-year-old girl. I have but precious little time left, so I will devote myself to a study of tuberculosis. It's crap, and I mean not just that the ideas are crap, but also the writing's crap. So yeah, it's terrible.
Are they turning this into a movie?
I guess so, yeah.